Welcome once again to the Tin Dog Podcast. This week, of course, like indeed last week, I was meant to be talking about the third episode of the 2005 series. However, time's kind of got the best of me, and when just back from my trip to Germany, I didn't mention the war. Other people did, and they didn't get away with it. Actually, that's not fair. Germany was a fantastic place. The scenery, the people, everything was wonderful. Truly had a great time. Definitely recommended as a destination. Where was I? Ah yes, I was apologising. I was apologising for not being able to do the show as advertised. Mainly because we've got new Doctor Who to talk about, and I thought that was slightly more important than rambling on about something that was 2 years old. I promise, again, faithfully, to do that one next week. In fact, what I'll do is I'll record that story, that episode of the Tin Dog Podcast, straight after this one. There you are. Feeling better? Of course you're feeling better. You've just watched TIMECRASH. Now, in all fairness, I was out of the country, so I had to tape it. Now, luckily, I'd recorded it twice, because the first time I'd recorded it actually failed, which made me slightly tense, as you can imagine. But it worked, the second one. Got all the way at the right place, queued it up, pressed play, and it was lovely. Yes, we have something that's, for charity, mate. But that's not a bad thing, always. We'll discuss Dimensions in Time in a moment, and the comic relief thing. But let's discuss TIMECRASH first. For those of you who haven't seen it, I suggest you access these show notes at www.tin-dog.co.uk, where there will be a link directly to the BBC Children in Need site, and that means you can watch the episode and the making of directly on your PC. That's if you missed it. Tell you what, if you haven't seen it, stop listening to this now and go and do that now. Then we can all assume we've seen it. Are you back? Have you done it? You've seen it. Wasn't it good? It was lovely to see Peter Davison back in the TARDIS. There were some throwaway lines that kind of sent shudders down a fanboy's arms, but that's not a problem, is it? Do you get shudders down your arms? I'm sure it's down your spine. Am I rambling? As always, yes. If you're playing the Tin Dog drinking game, have a swig. There isn't actually a Tin Dog drinking game, but I'm sure there should be. The most important thing about this story, I believe, is that it's canon. It fits. It actually sits up there with the 5 Doctors and the 2 Doctors and the 3 Doctors as part of Doctor Who history. It's not Dimensions in Time, although it fitted in almost perfectly to exactly the same slot. It wasn't comedic, it wasn't throwaway, it fitted, and it was filmed in exactly the same way that the show was made. David Tennant is a fanboy in real life. He loves the show, and he's exactly the same age as myself, which meant he grew up first with Tom and then mainly with Peter Davison. When he was watching the show, Peter was his doctor. And that's the speech that will stay with you when you watch it. When David is talking to the 5th Doctor, it is David talking to the 5th Doctor, it's not the 10th, saying how much he enjoyed him. Alright, he's not doing the voice, he's not doing his own voice, but the lines could have been written for David, by David, rather than by the man who gave us Blink. There were, of course, some pointless moments. Things like going on about how the 5th Doctor seems to have aged. We're Doctor Who fans. We are more than capable of suspending our disbelief. For God's sake, we believed that Richard Hurndall was the first Doctor in the 5 Doctors. If that's not suspending your disbelief, I don't know what is. Like most episodes of this sort, there are of course references to other things. There are references to Linda in the episode of which we do not speak. Oh, I'm sorry, I feel a bit ill again. Peter K, it's all right, Peter K is fine, it's fine, he's gone away. There is no such thing as Clom. I'm sorry. Right, I've calmed down from that, it's fine, I won't get upset about Clom again until I get around to doing the review of that episode. Oh, I'm so looking forward to that, because today we're talking about TIMECRASH. Everything was right about this story, apart from perhaps a section of the TARDIS from Davison's era appearing. Oh, I don't know. I would have liked a bit of the old TARDIS to materialise inside the new one. I know it's basically the same ship, but it is, but it isn't, but it is. Oh yeah, who cares? It was just lovely. Everyone's a fanboy. Everyone enjoyed it. Nobody's said a bad word, and if they have, I just haven't seen it. Ah, bliss. So, does this mean that eventually, because of course this had 11 million viewers, people would like to watch a multi-Doctor story? Well, I believe they would. I believe it would be time to get McGann out of his box and give him a run for his money. Let's face it, McGann, Eccleston and Tennant would make a lovely 3 Doctors, almost good enough to match the original. It would be a lovely tale. But of course, certain producers think that multi-Doctor stories are just an excuse to dress up. Well, I believe after the experience of this story, that's no longer the case. The 3 Doctors, the 2 Doctors and the 5 Doctors will of course get their own episode of the Tin Dog podcast in time. Dimensions in Time I'd rather ignore, but then again we'd all rather ignore it. It's still there. It's not the elephant in the room, but it is something we'd all like to just purge. But not purge from our own memories, purge from everyone else who ever saw it. Dimensions in Time was a sort of cross between EastEnders, the popular, and I use the word advisedly, soap. The word advisedly was about popular rather than about soap, because it quite clearly is, especially these days. And Doctor Who. It wasn't a clever idea, it wasn't a good idea. It just wasn't good. I'd rather we didn't go there. It was a mishmash and a pointless waste of time. But it was for charity. This was also for charity, and this was great. But then again, you already know that. Okay, this weekend I will be going to the Terence Dicks event in Bradford, where there will be screenings of his stuff, talks, all sorts of stuff. It starts at 1 o'clock. It's already sold out. But then again, by the time you get to hear this, it'll be the day itself, because I'm going to broadcast this on Saturday. Oh, can I just take the opportunity of thanking the guy on Podshock, number 101, who put a shout out for my Peter Davison story. I am gutted that I was unavailable to phone in and partake in Podshock on that one, and I will endeavour to be there for the Colin Baker story. I thought Peter Davison in this was great. I thought during his period as the Doctor, his proper tenure, was also great. But then again, I do say then again far too much. I'm sorry. As a late addendum to this podcast, I just want to say that I'm glad people seem to like the new theme music. And of course I have kept the time travel, the Dalek time machine start and end, so that's nice. And also, in the interest of keeping everyone up to date, the Wikipedia entry, that's the one all about the Tin Dog podcast, looks as though it probably will be removed unless other people can enter it and enter new stuff where mentioned on other sites, mainly because all of the Doctor Who related podcasts, that's Doctor Who Online, that's Podshock and my good self, they're all up for removal because people don't think they're important. If you think they are important, feel free. Oh, and before I go, can I just give a plug, if not an advert, for the new episode of Tachyon TV. Absolutely hilarious. Yeah, why did I sound quite dry on that one? No, it's great. Please, find Tachyon TV's podcast. It's on iTunes, download it, it's brilliant. It's one of the best made podcasts out there. Really, really well worth listening. Especially if you're an old school fan. That's it for this week. Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.